Straight out there.
Hello.
The screen.
We're live.
Hey.
This is Gary's Guitars, Guitar Talk, our weekly get-together, hang out, and talk about guitars time. This week's guest host is Peter Meyer. For those of you who follow the series, you met Peter a month ago or so.
About that.
And he's a guitar repair, guitar maker, part-time making sometimes.
Yeah, when I could fit it in.
Yeah, and he's doing work for the store, so we definitely want to feature him here now. He's our new star luthier. He works on the hard stuff, the really the most challenging jobs end up with Peter. So, anyways, for those of you joining, thank you for coming in. Chime in the chat and just say hi, so we know you're there.
Yeah.
And then everyone else who isn't a usual, what we do is leave a comment in the chat, and we'll talk about what you want to talk about. And guitar related, guitars, amps, all kinds of guitars, other stringed instruments, mandolin. You know, mandolin questions.
Mandolins are fun. Banjos
and
sitars. I fix those.
Ooh, really?
Yes, peepas.
How do you restring sitars?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so many strings on the sitar. It's crazy.
But it's really fun.
Yeah,
I like that sort of thing. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's a special kind of
And
so for those of you who are watching after the fact, you can leave comments in the comment section, and we'll address that in the next week's show. So let's let us begin. We usually start talking about some of our own pet, pet peeves or what's the word for it? Pet projects.
Yeah.
Hold on a second here. I'm just gonna do a little.
Yeah.
I got a little iPad, a little tablet over here that helps me to navigate the show here. And so just everyone saying hi, bunch of regulars chiming in. Thank you. And once again, leave some comments in there, and we'll address that stuff. But to start with, this has been fresh on my mind. I actually made a YouTube video about this, separate of this, but I definitely want to get your opinions and your knowledge in on this.
Okay.
And that is, and then Gary has his own perspective on this. I think we all know the Gary dynamic. Gary's the old stick in the mud. This is the way it is. And so when we talk about, so people walk in the store, and they go, "I need new tuners,"
right?
Because my guitar does not stay in tune.
Yeah.
And often, Gary likes to say, most tuners work fine.
Yeah.
If they work, they either work or they're either broken or they work.
Right.
It's usually not the tuner's
That's
fault.
right. I agree.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So I talked about nut binding.
Yeah.
The string getting caught in the nut. Let's talk about the things that make your guitar go out of tune.
Right. Well, that's one of the issues. Another way is, is it acoustic or an electric? That's another thing. How old are your strings? First question.
Strings.
How old are those? Those are kind of critical. When did you last change them?
Yeah.
Oh, I was 6 months ago. Usually what I tell people, if you play a lot, change them once a month. That's what I say. Everybody's got their own
believe
thing.
That,
It keeps it fresh.
Bad strings do not intonate. Yeah.
So there's one of the big things right there. Then the nut binding, yes. When the strings were attached at the bridge, were they done properly? Because I can move. Or simply, do you know how to tune? Because there's actually little tricks on how to tune. You always got to stretch your strings.
Yeah,
and you don't tune. You don't tune like it's like if you're playing and then you say, I'm flat, and then you tune, sharp, and then you strum, and then it can go flat. So I always pull my strings first.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Well, definitely when they're new, absolutely.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. I always do this thing. I go below the note and come up to it.
That's right.
And if you're come up. Yeah. And if your tuners are marginal, that really helps them work right. Some tuners can, but that if you have nut binding happening, and so someone asked, are Graph Tech nuts any good? What do you think?
They work.
Okay, so they're good.
Yeah, they're good. I think it becomes a tonal thing. Usually, bone. The reason why everybody loves bone is because it's very similar to a fretted note and an open note. And that's why they really like them, and they really hold the vibration nicely. The difference between the Graphtec stuff is they have this lubricant that's built in them, and they work. And is what they have to be cut properly. Yeah. That's the whole thing. They have
you can't just put it on.
Yeah. They have to be filed smooth. I have actually these little pieces of string that have sand grit on it, and I fair stuff out with that, which is very handy for clearing that. But it's the simple, basic stuff.
Yeah. So sometimes when people swap their own nut, they're just like, okay, looks like a nut, and they put it on, and it kind of fit in. But you always have to fit the string to the nut. Yep. And I go one step bigger. So if I'm cutting to 10, I go to 12. Yeah. Just to give it a little extra.
Yeah, I always make it bigger too. Yeah. Exactly. But it's got to feel smooth. The bottom of the slot's got to be nice and smooth.
It's got to be smooth. It's got to be able to travel there real easy. Yeah.
So that more often is the problem. Rarely is it the tuner.
So sometimes bone is good because it's lightweight, porous, but can be a good tone transformer. Are there any other materials you like for nuts? Do you like any of the composites? Any of the other alternative nuts?
I usually just go for bone.
Yeah,
that's what I like. And here's the thing that I do is that I'll take the material I'm using and I'll plunk it on a metal surface and I'll listen to it to see if it it actually sort of rings or the kind of plank that it has. Yeah. It shows me how it's going to help the sound of the guitar. So that is something I do. There's another interesting thing I experimented with that was really interesting. It was on a classical guitars, and I used graphite, epoxy graphite material for the saddle. And it really, on some guitars, really made them come alive. It was a great experiment. Really worked.
What about carbon fiber saddles? Have you heard of those? People are making saddles out of carbon fiber.
Yeah. And let's see. So how much experience do I have with them tone-wise? One thing that's interesting, it's when you cut it, okay, you have a piece like and it's in a rectangle. So when you cut it this way, it tends to be harder. If you cut it this way, it tends to be a little softer. It does have a grain to it. What it is that it's epoxy stuck in kind of a web, and that's what holds it and it gives it its shape. And then it's filled with graphite, and that's why the thing that then makes strings just move over it very nicely.
Right.
But it's very similar to the Graphtec and all that. It's still kind of similar. So that's a long-winded. Hey, what do you think about the?
So a few people, to catch up on that. Michael Kraus is asking, what about the difference between acoustics and electrics? Yeah, I feel it makes less difference. So he thinks the bone makes less difference than the electric.
It's up to the person.
Yeah. And the brass, what about brass?
Well, the thing about brass, because I remember so well when they first came out.
I need to have a brass nut.
There was so much of that. What they actually do is they suck tone in a little bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What they can do, like an overly bright guitar can, can be softened just
it evens it up a little bit too.
It does, and it's the same thing like on your Tele when you have the brass. It can soften the sound. I love Teles now. I've become a convert. It took me forever to get there, but I really love them. And this one I just made, the center saddle with the D and the G, I have a steel, and the rest I have brass on the outside.
Oh, interesting.
So you can kind of balance tones out that way. It was really worked on that guitar. So you just got to play.
All right, let's catch up with the chat for a second. Reverend Tacos is asking, do you ever discuss pianos? Does the music store sell those? This is kind of funny. I worked as a piano tech for years. I trained with a and I worked doing regulations, and I started doing tunings, but tuning's a whole different world. So I got to so that I could tune, but tuning for money is tough. Because someone who tunes every day, they can tune a piano an hour and a half. It takes me 3 hours to tune a piano. Because you're just not that all the little things. So I decided not to do tuning, but I did a lot of rebuilds. So yes, I know about pianos. We have a Wurlitzer piano in the store right now. It is absolutely beautiful. But ordinarily, this is guitar talk. So if you do have any specific questions about pianos, we can talk about that. You can leave it in the comments or something. We'll address it later.
I happened to work at a piano place too for a while.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, doing piano repairs.
Where's that? Where was that?
That was outside of Acton, Littleton.
Yeah.
This kind of Sanderson was the name of the guy.
Okay.
Anyway, I did that for a while too.
Yeah, that's and it's very mechanical. It's like banjos or the same way.
Yeah,
So
same
it's just
deal.
a lot of screw turning. It's not really, although. All right, so let me catch up here with the chat a little more.
Yep.
Mike from Hungary says hi. Mike is, I don't know if you've heard the Mike stories.
Yeah.
Our friend Mike Endicott just threw up his hands and said, I'm moving to Hungary.
I heard
See you guys later.
Yeah.
And he's been gone for 5-6 years. Something loves it over there apparently.
Yeah.
And he watches the show once in a while. And he's a great guitar repair person.
I've heard his name for.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Especially being in the North Shore and him having been around here so long. Mike Endicott built this,
Yeah.
Because he always builds crazy, cool things.
Cool. That is cool.
Anyways, let's catch up here. Tone difference. Yeah, that was that. Sonic vibration is the enemy of carbon fiber. So I question the long-term lifespan of items. So yeah, I guess carbon fiber is made to not resonate. Is it? I don't know.
It does resonate.
Yeah.
It does resonate because what you can do here's the same way I was talking before. You just do a test. If you take it, you drop it on a metal surface, has a very high plink. So if you used and like guys are trying to build acoustics using them to reinforce braces for that very reason.
Reinforcement.
But you still have spruce in the center, but they'll either sticking into the center of the brace, something like that. So it does have some acoustic quality.
Check this out. My Les Paul Standard came with a titanium nut.
Oh yeah,
seems to work pretty good. I swapped out the Robo tuners.
Oh good.
Robo
those are
tuners.
the worst.
Robo tuners.
Yeah.
That should have
never happened.
Never happened because not just the horror stories about like people being on stage and suddenly going into open G for no good reason or whatever the thing that happens. Yeah. The literal malfunctions.
Yeah.
But it's just there's no way to do that.
Way too complicated. There's no reason for that.
Yeah, that was just But yeah, titanium nut.
Yeah, and they're making saddles out of it as well. Yeah. And it's like titanium, super, super hard, super light. Brings out the highs. You're not going to hear it as much on the nut if it's an electric guitar, but if you have saddles that are titanium, you're going to hear it more. Same thing with aluminum. Aluminum it brings up the highs if that's what you want to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so Robert Fordo is asking thoughts on string trees. Thinking about adding one to my Tele.
Oh yeah. Oh.
So some Teles had 2, and some had 1, some 0. But
there's this guy, and I see if I can try to remember. That's the website. I think it's called Music City. He's a guy in Nashville, and he just had this simple idea: is that it holds down 3 strings, just one tree, and it works the balls.
Okay.
It works
one
great.
Because those are
simple.
Right.
You just have 3 little bumps.
Yeah.
It works
just
perfectly.
1 screw hole in the middle. Yeah.
That's it.
But you can't think of the name of that, but that's one
I
you
think
recommend.
Music City is the name of the company. They make several different innovations. And the guy's a very well-known repairman in Nashville. And of course, I can't remember crap. But
and of course, if living in Nashville, he probably works on a few Teles.
Quite a few. But this is a cool thing. So when I make a Tele, I usually use it because I like it.
So, I'd like to look into that.
Yeah, those are cool.
Someone's asking. Someone says, "Save the Robo tuners." I bet in 20 years, people will pay money for them. Yeah, people want to restore the vintage value. So everyone's gonna de-Robo tune everything, and someone's gonna want the original Robo tuners. We're so cool.
You never know.
Yeah, and someone will pay you $400 for the set of Robo tuners you're about to throw out.
Yeah.
But you
buy
never know.
Buy them up now.
Yeah, exactly. Don't only save your Robo tuners. Go buy up it's like the Bitcoin of
because everybody's
tuning machines. Yeah. People are throwing them out. Actually, I talked to there's this guy. Some those old tuners that come on. Well, they come on harmonies, I know, but those old Kluson.
The Kluson ones, yeah.
And there was this guy who was a guitar repair guy in North Carolina, I think it was. He's like, "Oh, those things are junk. I throw them out. I put them right in the garbage. Those are junk." I'm like, "Don't do that. First of all, people need those to fix their Gibsons.
Exactly.
But furthermore, they're fine.
Yeah, they work
fine.
Yeah.
People get very opinionated about tuners. So that's
yeah.
Reverend uses 1 string tree like that. That's Michael says that.
Yeah, they might have got it from him. Who knows?
All right. So that little oh yeah. So we talked about the string trees. Do they have any good or bad? What does the string tree do to the tone on those strings?
Well, often
it creates more downward pressure.
Yeah, which is super
obvious,
important. It clarifies your tone there. For you have to have downward pressure. Often, you do that, and you'll try leaving it off of one. You'll hear it doesn't sing. Yeah. So that's why you had, because of the way the Fenders were made. So we'll fix that problem easy instead of cutting the head, because they're probably trying to cut money. Instead of cutting the head like they normally do, and then angle it back to a 14 degrees or whatever like that. You didn't want to do that. Just run it through the shaper. Yeah. And done. So that was a simple fix. It works, but they're important for that very reason. And you use it if on your specific guitar. If it improves it, keep it. If it doesn't, toss it.
Yeah, that's too. Yeah, that's it. Because there are some Fenders that don't have them when they're new. Even the most notably Eric Johnson went without them, and so Fender, like the Eric Johnson signature model has no string trees, and then other people like, well, if Eric Johnson doesn't need them, I don't either, or other famous players.
Yeah. Well, then what you do, then you have to compensate somehow, so that when you wrap your strings, you just use extra wraps and have them pull down as far as you can. That just creates the break.
But I think that's also with that's one reason sometimes you don't need them, is if you have locking strings
that's the whole point.
Pull backwards. Yeah,
the whole point
really
for
low
those
ones. Yeah,
that's right. They're graded.
New classic vibe 50s Tele. Should the nut be filed to a 9.5 radius?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So they radius the backside, or you're talking about the front side?
The front side. I mean, I'll tell you the trick.
Okay.
If you guys want to know the trick, I'll just tell you how it's done. So basically, you have the nut, you're looking at the nut, and then you press at the 4th fret, and then you want to have just the very slightest space movement, underneath that, but it's very it gets to be a feel thing.
Yeah, just so it moves. I do it on the 3rd, but maybe it's the same result. Just so it could touch if you moved it, but it can't touch.
Yes. Just barely. You hear this little tap, and that's all you need. And of course, you have to for height. You have to balance that with your truss rod. For me, I really like a straight neck, almost perfectly straight, and then I just adjust with that. But it's really important that the bridge is radiused properly. Yeah, that it's whatever that is on that guitar has to be the same radius. Anywhere those strings are going, and it has a big difference with feel. That so the answer simply yes, the nut, and yes, the saddle. Absolutely.
Yeah, the saddle's good. And you're gonna think I'm crazy. Someone came in with a Jaguar, and he's like, "This high string's buzzing. I don't know why." And I was like, "Okay, let me play it." And so I was playing with the saddle, and I accidentally the high E. I kind of I followed the radius, and so that the saddle was slightly tilted, and it did away with the problem. Yeah. Okay, and it sounds crazy. So even the 2 E saddles are following the radius, but it actually worked. Yeah. So the inside was a little higher than the outside. Yeah. So rather than just string, like building a ladder and up
exactly,
and down,
nice and smooth.
I actually follow the entire radius.
Yeah. So it depends. You got to make sure the slots on your saddle are cut properly. Are they deep enough? Because if not, they'll wiggle around. So one way to deal with that is you can just tilt the saddle and you adjust it, and that holds it in place from when you
Yeah.
So there's that.
On the low E, but I was talking about the high E. It did that. So the high E, you think it would do the opposite, but because the string, anyway.
Yeah. Whatever works.
There's that too.
There's that.
So let me catch up over here. Yeah. We're talking about tuning and going out of tune.
Yeah.
Lewis says I changed my new Schecter tuners for some Graph Tech bass ratio.
Oh yeah.
Besides smooth turns, I mainly saw a difference when tuning was way easier. So,
sure. Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
But also, what else? What other little things cause tuning to not happen?
Let me see. We went over strings. We went over bridge.
We went over the nut, the bridge stuff.
You have to make sure it's nice and smooth, that nothing gets caught. You make sure that if it's on an acoustic guitar, that you have it firmly placed underneath. There's the top, there's the bridge, and there's the bridge plate. And you want to make sure you don't have your string hanging down. If I could do this, here's the bottom of the soundboard, and you want to make sure that the nib of the string is just sitting nicely in that spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is that underneath the bridge plate, they can get worn out.
Yeah.
And that has to be replaced. Or I usually patch them, because to do the bridge patch underneath, not just the patch, but the bridge plate is a big job. It's a big job.
Back off? Do you take the back off to do that, or can you do it?
No, I rarely take the back off. Most everything is done
building
with
a
my
ship
hand.
in the bottle.
Yeah, that's what guitar repair is. Or building even. But no, really, guitar repair, you're doing a ship in a bottle, and you figure all these clever ways that you have all these like little jacks and stuff that you have in there, all long clamps, and you just have to have the fun, actually, for people like me who think that's fun. I think it's fun.
Well, this, and maybe this would be a little tangent for me. There's a couple comments, but I want to talk about this because it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
So guitars that are poorly intonated appear to go into tune, and then to go out of tune sooner. So this happened. I was watching a friend play a gig, and he'd have to tune his guitar halfway through a song. Wow. So at the beginning of the song, he'd tune it, and then he'd be playing, and then he'd just like mess with a tuner or whatever. And I was after the song, I'm like, hey, I think your intonation's out.
Could be.
Because that's why. So what happens is you tune the guitar and everything's right, and you play a chord, and then something goes a little out, and that's enough to throw the whole tolerance, because you're at the edge of the tolerance anyway. So what was almost right. And now you just get popped out of that real quick. And so if your guitar kind of appears to not stay in tune, could be just because your intonation isn't right.
That could be true. Well, another thing about the intonation, of course, so you can play up and down the neck and it stays in tune, relatively speaking, because it's a guitar. But you'll know, you'll be playing down here, and then you're playing up here, and it's like it's sour. That's the whole reason for intonation. So that's part of it as well. It is also sometimes you're playing, and when your strings go a little sharp. And one trick to do is don't touch a tuner. All you got to do is reach down and wiggle that string. It'll go right back. A little bit, I'm constantly doing that when I play. I mean, as we're guitar players, that's what we do. We're always, so nobody sees it. And they just, you're playing, you just stick it under there, and it's like, it goes perfectly in tune. That solves the problem 90% of the time. And what the problem happens is when people will do that, and instead of when they go to the tuner, it creates more of a problem. If it's a little sharp. So it's usually simple little movements are better. So that's that. Okay.
Is there a trick to keep the huge E string breaking at the peg on a Fender locking tuners?
It's breaking.
Oh, he meant small E.
The high E.
Yeah, the high E gets broken at the tuning machine.
Well, it could be that at the entrance of the hole, it could be just a touch sharp. You just need to file it.
We actually had a regular customer bring a guitar. He had a really nice Fender, USA Pro 2 or whatever it is. And he's like, I keep breaking strings. These tuners are terrible. I need new tuners. And I was like, then I called him up, and I was like, you know what? The tuners are fine. They just didn't finish making them. They all had like little bits of two sharp ends on them. And but he was like, no, I want better tuners. And I was like, well, there's only one tuner that's better, I think, and that would be the Shaler.
Yeah.
So if you want an upgrade,
Spurzels,
but German.
Yeah, this German.
German perfection. Yeah. All right. The bridge was a constant struggle. He's talking about intonating the bass. This is Lewis. Following up on that.
All right.
Okay. So loose screws, and Rich says loose screws and nut on tuning peg is easy to overlook. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the nut on the top, those loosen themselves over time.
That's right.
And then they can wiggle around a little bit because they keep it
right.
Perpendicular.
Yeah. You got to tighten them up.
You got to not too tight.
No.
Especially if you have headstock veneer and you tighten that down, you're gonna
There's just a gentle feel, just snug. That's
all. Just so they're snug. And then on the back side, that's a thing too. So let's see here. Wrap around bridge tilts forward under string tension.
Oh sure, yeah.
Anchor bushings fit snug in the guitar body.
Right.
Have a solution. Mark and I talked on the phone about. Oh yeah, this is the guy who talked about. So his issue was that leaning forward.
Yeah,
that happens because there's 200 pounds of pressure pulling on it. Because I'd lean forward too if there's 200 pounds of pressure pushing on me.
I am right now.
Yeah, exactly. Lean forward. Yeah. He was thinking maybe that. So what we were talking about on the phone was the tolerance. I mean, like the because he's a machinist as well, and he thinks the actual fit of the tapping part, the screw-in part of the bridge, is not quite good enough, and he can lean forward a little under pressure. All right, so talk about what you can talk about with these.
Well,
leaning forward.
Which guitar is
I think it's a PRS, I think you said.
So it's on a nicer guitar.
Yeah.
It's like the Mirror or something like that.
It could be a Mirror, or something, but still,
Because usually their hardware is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And fits real tight. If he's a machinist, you got to check the tolerance to see if there's any kind of wiggle room that's happening there. Some right where I'm not going to be able to say it.
Okay.
My brain just went, I know what I'm doing, the thing that goes over here, and it goes like that, and it goes like that. Yeah. Really, I'm a professional. I'm not kidding, but I just can't think. Where the mechanical issue there is where the bridge is connecting with the studs. Hey, I could say it. Anyway, you have to make sure that, of course, that's a nice, clean, connection. I was in an SE. That's another thing I'm curious about.
It could be as well, but here's something, because I mentioned to him if he finds that his actual posts are actually the top, they can tilt.
Because what happens sometimes is where the studs were put in, they can be loose.
Yep, exactly. So I mentioned to him
most of the time.
Using a little epoxy and seating them in epoxy.
I would use. I'll tell you. I would use high quality crazy glue.
Okay. Yeah.
Much better in that
thick?
regard.
What?
Either one.
Because the thin is going to, because that actually seeps into the wood, makes the wood swell.
Well, what it does is it case hardens it. I'll have a quick story about that. It's about pianos. Okay.
Yeah.
That stuff is fantastic, and there's years and years ago. So we're doing a bunch pin blocks, right?
Pin blocks.
So the fix that we had is you had this water thin crazy glue, right? And you get it's like 5 inches thick.
Yeah.
And so I'm adding it into all the pins, and I'm watching it travel the whole way. And I was way impressed.
Yeah.
And then when that hardened, it case hardened, it could hold how many thousands of pounds of pressures on the pin block. There's a lot. It held it. Yeah. That stuff is really strong. And I use that material in all its thicknesses every day, all the time.
And so also, here's another thing about that. We're geeking out over glue.
Yeah.
The first application will really seep into the wood because it will leach into the wood.
Yeah.
And then if you do a second application, so that's with the pin block thing, that's what we do. Yeah. We apply it twice.
Yeah.
In the second application, it already has a hard surface to actually fill some space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. Now, I would say if you do this, you have to be really careful because you don't want to wreck your finish. So you have to mask it off. You have to be very, very careful. The other thing I use all the time with that stuff is an accelerator.
Yeah.
But a specific one. And that one, because it makes it go off.
Yeah.
And then you can, add that. It makes it happen even more quickly. It's awesome stuff. But anyway. One thing I'm curious about as we're going on, if anybody has questions about, repairs, what's it take to do it, or any of those kind of things, or how the hell or why'd you bother doing this? What's your problem? If you have the question, if you don't, that's cool. But just wondering.
We just go with the flow a bit, but if you have anything more
know.
general guitar repair questions, less specific things, we're up to that.
Anything's
too.
Good.
Philosophical guitar questions.
Yes, we like those.
Because that's here, especially just our store is a very philosophical guitar store. It's a holistic guitar store.
There you go.
So it's not always this is the right way and there's no other way.
Right. You have to be open to whatever's going to happen.
Here's a question that this is pretty good. Where to go here? Your thoughts on a good replacement Tele neck that won't break the bank?
Oh.
With vintage tall frets. What are your favorite replacement necks?
That doesn't break the bank.
Someone suggested. Someone in the chat did suggest Wormouth. You know.
Wormouth is great.
Wormouth, all parts,
USA Custom is a great company.
USA Custom, I hadn't heard of that.
They're really good. They're out of Washington.
Okay. Probably refugees from Wormouth.
They are refugees, and they're really, really great company. You know, what I like to do is I will get a neck sometimes if I don't feel like making it at the time, but I'll get a really fat one, and then I shape it down to what I like.
To what you like, yeah.
But if you're handy like that,
yeah,
it's good to do. And you know, sometimes WD stuff is fine.
WD stuff is fine.
Yeah. They can work really well.
Here's something I'll say about Wormouth, though.
Yeah,
we were at one time banned by Wormouth. This was back when Chris was our luthier. The legend. This is the shoes you have to fill. Chris Byrne. Well, someone ordered a neck from Wormouth. Came in. He was going to put it on. He's like, you know, and he said, like, you know what? You should send this neck back. It's I think it's got a little twist in it. You know, like this is good. Yeah. So they sent it back, and they sent another one. And he's like, no, this neck is this is not good enough. This is not a new neck. Send it back. And Wormouth is like, these necks are fine, and we're never selling anything to you again. So,
okay,
excuse me.
There's that.
But you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Because here's a few things about that. There's inexpensive necks that feel and work great.
Yeah.
But they just fail quickly. And these Asian made, some of them, not Japanese. Japanese made necks.
Yes, they're great. Japanese
they're like just great. Something about Japanese craftsmanship.
Their concept's right.
And then, there's some fine looking Asian made necks that just kind of don't age well.
Yeah.
And do you find, to get on a bit of a tangent, I find necks warp faster and need more truss rod tightening than loosening these days. Do you think, and especially with some of the Asian made instruments, we have people actually. Here's a story. Someone comes in every year, tighten my truss rod. Gary does this, whatever. I need a truss rod adjustment. Comes in, tightens it. He's coming in for 10 years.
Yeah.
Comes in one day. Oh, my neck, my action side. Yeah, he's talking to me. He's like, Gary just tightens it, and I'm like, okay, sure. It's done.
Oh yeah.
It's been
all the way to the end.
It's been tightened because if you tighten an eighth of a turn every year for 10 years, you could be
then what you have to do? Well, sometimes because the guitar has been sitting around or whatever like that, you have to take the nut off of the truss rod and you have to lube it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be very careful. Some of them get really stuck. And then other than that, you have to take it off and then you put in spacers, and you can use spacers.
To get a little more approach on it. Yeah.
Because what will happen is the wood is compressing, and it has to do with how hard that given piece of whatever it is.
Materials quality.
That's right.
And I harp on it a bit, but.
Well, so there's what I would do if I found a piece of wood that was starting to degrade. I would actually pull all the nut out and everything, clean it. I would take some of that water thin crazy glue, and I would very carefully wick it because you could glue that truss rod. You sure as hell don't want to do that. So you do this.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it at home. And I would let it wick in, let it case harden, and then you could proceed again. You're going to get more life out of that. So that's a little trick, but again, for the pros.
Okay, here's a general question. What's something on a guitar that you hate to set up or deal with as a tech, but like to play? What is it that's bothersome? Maybe on a guitar that you like to play. That's like, we all know Floyd Rose's.
Oh, they're a pain in the ass. But I guess if you're used to them, then they're like every other day. But
what else is something that's just a pain in the ass, but worth it?
Okay. 335s. They do in electronics.
Oh,
they're a pain in the ass because you have to take everything out in one string.
Work on it and snake it
all the way in, and that's But other than that, I love them. Them, but that's a pain in there. Other than that, I find, I do this every day. And I do take whatever comes, and I generally, even if it's pain, I like it still. I still get off on because I learned something.
Yeah, well, that's good for you.
Or came up with a new idea.
Yeah.
You know, hey, this approach will make it easier, and that's what makes me happy.
Going back to the replacement neck.
Yeah,
I have been pretty impressed with the Made in Mexico Fender replacement necks.
Oh, they're great.
And if you want to if you decide it's a good time to switch your neck, if you had rosewood and you want to do maple or something.
Yeah. They're also doing torrefied ones too.
Yeah, torrefied.
So those are handy.
So also they're not that expensive for the basic ones, $250 or something. And that's what's
like $3 something last time.
Well, I think the most basic one's $250, and then there's $3, and then there's $450 for it goes up from there. But it depends which one you're getting, and then also. And if you're paying $225 for all parts, and $275 for Fender,
it's about the same. I do have one suggestion, the cheapo suggestion, that actually sometimes can be pretty nice, is GFS.
Oh, okay.
Guitar Fetish. I've gotten several things over the years, and they can be pretty
surprisingly
damn good.
Decent.
Yeah. So that can work if it depends on what you want to do with it. You know, there's a lot of ifs there.
Yeah, that would be cheap. And they have a lot of options too.
They do.
You know?
They
so
do.
if you want particularly, whoever mentioned that's a tall frets or big frets.
They have big frets on them.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yep.
Dub Delay says hi. Dub Delay's in Dublin. He's been following us for some time now, cool. And so hi to you, and Chris Paul, who's going to be that's his pseudonym. But he's going to appear on our show later this month or next month, early next month.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be one of our guest hosts. But I don't know if he wants to guest host under a pseudonym or his actual name.
Maybe put a bucket on his head. And a mystery.
Okay. What's the worst modded guitar? This is pretty good. And if Mike Endicott is still watching, Mike in Hungary, pipe in with this one, because what is the worst modded guitar you've ever come across? I've seen some Les Pauls butchered into teardrops and Strats cut into pear shapes in stores, Ricks with humbuckers, a 59 Les Paul Jr. with a Floyd Rose.
Oh God!
Oh. So what did you have you ever opened the case and went, oh dear God, what have you done? Do you have any examples of those? Floyd Roses, of course.
Yeah, those I just hate them. But we deal with them. I don't really actually.
Mm-hmm.
No. There's if there's acoustic questions too. Is it mostly electric questions?
Yeah, right now we're just on electric
we do
thing.
the whole...
But butchered acoustics. That's
that AC lots.
Do you want to see one?
Yeah.
Do I get a second here? All right. All right. Say something to the folks.
Just be a second.
Just talk to them.
Okay, I'm gonna say stuff. I don't know what he's bringing. Any questions? I'm just curious about who's curious about
butchered acoustic guitar.
Here we go. We are.
A butchered acoustic guitar, but this thing is a piece of art as well. Okay. So you can't necessarily get angry at the butchery.
Yeah, there you go. Creative butchery. Oh yeah.
This just came in a pile of parts guitars.
Yeah.
It has no bridge. If you put a bridge on it, the action would be too high to play.
Oh, sure.
The owner was probably named Aaron.
Yeah, this is an old one too, V-neck.
It's got it's a Stella kind of thing. Harmony by the stamp.
That's the correct bridge. Actually, they didn't make them like that.
Look inside.
Oh, geez.
Someone ran a rod.
That'll take care of it.
Yeah, a rod from here to here to try to stop the neck from coming off.
That's an interesting way to do it.
And they were lucky the thing's together at all.
Yeah, it didn't really. All they had to do is do it from the inside, from the neck block. That's all. No reason to put it all the way through.
But check this out.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think.
But that's a butchery. When people try to
it's kind of fun.
Try to do or have you remember the poor man's neck reset? You ever heard?
Oh God, yeah. Back
so
in the
people
old
would
days.
take a saw with a wide blade, cut all the way down, and then compress it
down,
screw it, put a big sheetrock screw in there to hold it down, and then epoxy it back together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another way they used to do it is they would take, there's a neck block in here that holds your dovetail or whatever it's connected with, and they would take this and it's called slipping. They would slip the block, and then they'd re-glue it. So that's another way that was done. So just taking and then stick glue in there. And that's how they did it, rather than doing it properly. Does anybody want to know how that's done? We can tell you that. Or is that boring? I don't know.
The neck tuck.
Yeah.
When they used to do that on Martins, when all the Martins were falling apart, you would separate the back. Yeah. And then they would tuck the neck backward, the entire, and then they'd shave
it and then rebind.
Whew.
Yeah. There are better ways.
Yeah. But so Mike did chime in and say, hands down, Bobby Hearn's Strat when I first met him in '77. Now you don't know Bobby Hearn. He's a legend around here. He passed away maybe 2000, right around 2000, but people still talk about him. But he was an enormous character. Yeah. And I know, I don't know this particular Strat, but when I knew him later in the 90s, he had a Hondo for his primary guitar. Sure. And he wanted to lighten it up. Okay. So he got a 1-inch hole cutting saw and just went to town on the entire instrument, anywhere there was extra he could. And he just lightened the whole thing up.
There you go. How did it sound?
Sounded great. Sounded like a hollow body.
Done.
Right. Hollow body.
Done. Hooray. Guitars are fun like that.
Okay. Let's go back. Michael says, I saw a black Les Paul with a Floyd Rose and an Iron Maiden guitar strap permanently screwed onto it. Of course. I sort of liked it, he said.
There you go.
Yeah. So, well, here's the thing. This is a philosophical bent to this. Is your guitar, so as far as I'm concerned, your guitar is your guitar.
That's right.
If you want to do crazy, stupid stuff to it,
anything you want to do,
it's your guitar. And we're the stewards of these things. And there are certain guitars where it is a shame. Like if you put a Floyd Rose in your '63 Fender, then maybe. Yeah. But but still, it is your guitar. And I would strongly advise against it. You would wreck tens of thousands of dollars of vintage value.
That's true.
But
you're free. It's a free country.
Yep. Okay, so this is Mike talking about Bobby's guitar. It had some kind of growth out of the bridge, fabricated with liquid steel that functioned as a whammy bar palm pedal. So,
wow.
Yeah, I will say I had a friend who had a bar made out of a hibachi handle. That's kind of cool. That was his whammy bar.
That's
cool.
I love that.
The worst modded guitar that I've ever seen was the stock Firebird X.
Well put.
Yeah, put some air in those notes. That's what Bobby said about drilling the holes in his guitar. You got to put some air in that guitar. You got to get some air in there. Yeah. And then he also this way. Speaking of the palm thing on the tremolo, is he would imitate steel licks by bending above the nut.
Oh yeah.
And so he'd just be all like with the tremolo and bending above the nut. He would play steel guitar on a Strat. Yeah,
wicked fun.
Yeah. Actually, what a guitar it is. Just catching up here on the chat. Larry from Primus plays a Les Paul with a Floyd Rose. That's his right. And he's in Primus. You're not.
That's right.
Right? Maybe he knows something we don't.
Probably.
What I will say about Primus is, as someone who plays a upright bass, and I did in college when Primus was really popular in the 90s, my bass would be sitting somewhere in the house I was living in or somewhere, and someone would be like, oh my God, so cool. And they pick up my bass and grab the bow and go like, Primus. Like, and so I just not that damage. Actually, you could damage the bow by playing like that, but still, that's not how you play a bass with a bow. I'm sorry, Mr. Primus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Back on track. Oh, so by the way, we got to do our halfway through. It's more than halfway through. But for those of you watching, leave questions and comments in the comment section. If you're watching after the fact, where most of the people actually end up watching, leave it in the comments, and then we'll get to it next week. Yep. And Brian Keaton says, would you recommend the Fender Blues Junior or the Fender Pro Junior? I know the answer to this one.
That's yours.
Pro Junior, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blues Junior's okay.
Yeah.
The Pro Junior is something special.
Yeah.
Now, why choose a Blues Junior over a Pro Junior? If you want onboard spring reverb.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pro Junior has volume and tone, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Same output tubes. Mm-hmm. Simpler circuit.
10-inch speaker?
10-inch speaker instead of a 12.
Yeah.
Now, the Blues Junior has the 3-band EQ, master volume, a spring reverb, but I prefer the Pro Junior. Oh. And there are certain other people who do too. It's just like an old amp. It's volume and tone. Yeah. And just do everything else on your guitar or with your pedals or something. It just sounds good. The notes sound right. So, okay. And I've actually... Fender Pro Junior 4 is the best. Yes, the 4th revision. I do like those. I got one of those now. I had the original or second and an older one. Slightly darker sound. The new one's a little brighter. But I really recommend the Pro Junior a lot. And we have 0 in the store right now because they've been on order for 5 months. Yeah. Fender is dropping the ball. Yeah. But they're coming soon for Christmas time. I have a Martin F55 guitar in good shape. Good shape. Body is in rough shape. Sure. Is it worth more, or should I get it redone by Martin Guitars to? So it looks like a 335. That's the so it's a Martin electric. Oh,
they are Martin electric.
So he's saying, should I get refinished professionally, or look, he says by Martin, or leave it as it is?
I would leave it.
Leave it. Yep. It's refinishing instruments is a terrible thing to do. And vintage value wise, it crushes your value.
That's how you crush it. Whether it's better or not is
whether it looks better, plays better, sounds better.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. People think, oh, it's a repaint. Oh no.
Exactly. There goes half your...
Whether or not the new paint job is better than the crappy paint job it had originally. Matter.
That's
which
right.
is refinish, like, and I kind of complain about the cult of the pre-CBS Fender, but they are the worst. If you refinish a guitar,
anything,
you are going to hell.
Not again.
Okay. So someone actually, I missed this, and he said again, good, because can you recommend a good brand of bass bridge?
Depends. What's the bass?
He's talking about the Schecter bass, probably. He was talking about earlier. He was talking about Schecter.
Huh. What's wrong with the one he has?
Well, let's ask Lewis. Why don't you like your bridge?
Yeah. My simple theory on all musical instruments: if it sounds good and it feels good, and one more, if it's made out of good stuff, it's good, and nothing else matters. Yeah. And then just play.
Or if it works, I have 20-something guitars. Yeah. I got 65 Gibson. I got a 1970s Guild Arch Top. I got some nice guitars. Yeah. My favorite guitar is an Arch Top K.
There you go.
It's plywood.
Yep.
Stamped plywood. Yeah. Not even the solid top one.
Yeah.
And it has a de-arming pickup. After the fact, de-arming pickup put on it. Thing sounds like $1 million. Cheap. The original tuner's still on it. The original bridge, the bridge Smith swap, Tunematic. Yeah. Original tailpiece, all this cheap stuff. Yeah. But it all adds up to something wonderful.
Up to something. So one of the things, obviously, it's so easy to get caught up in all these little particulars, and we go crazy about all these little particulars. Is that going to make it better? That can make it better or worse, something like that. If the guitar is working for you, I'd say concentrate on making music, because that's the point of it. You know, if it inspires you, enjoy it, what it's doing for you at that moment.
Yeah, some people get a little too wrapped up in the modding thing. Now, we're a store that sells parts, so mod away.
And all I do is mod.
All day long. That's what we do.
But, and that's great.
But the Zen side of that, or the the holistic side of that is, when people ask me, should I change my pickups? I used to say, and I've lightened up a little. But my thing was, if you don't like the pickups, don't get the guitar. Just get the guitar you like with the pickups you like in it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
That was because I had an Ibanez 1977 Ibanez Artist.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I had great pickups and a great guitar, and so I can understand wanting to liking something and wanting to make it better and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I do that all the time, but you can tell it's like you're making a recipe and you're playing a given instrument, and if there's especially pickups, that's one of those things that's easily customizable. And it's like, I want it to do this, I know it can do that. I mean, I always judge an acoustic guitar, electric guitar exactly the same. I always play them acoustically to see what that wood's going to say to me, and then I can enhance what it is that I hear. That's how I think about changing pickups or anything on the guitar. So I'm not saying don't mod. It's like, definitely do it, but just don't do it unnecessarily. It's like you're playing, it's like, and then you stop. It's like, well, it could be, it's like, play, make music, which is the point of the thing. But if it's something's getting in your way, then mod. It's great. It's a wonderful thing, but just well used. That's all.
Well, the Blues, back to the Blues Junior for a second. I didn't mean to crap on the Blues Junior. They're good amps.
I like them. I have.
Yeah.
Nice.
But if I had to choose one, it's the Pro Junior.
I'm gonna have to try the Pro. I've never tried it.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Because it might fit into that, and especially now they're $100 more now, but they're still a good bargain.
Yeah.
They were really, you can get them in the used market. Pretty easily.
Yep.
So back to Lewis's bridge.
Yes.
He says it rattles.
Sorry.
He's got a rattle.
Well, that's probably simple, screws, or is everything nice and tight?
It could be metals quality. Could like a nut be tight or whatever.
What was the guitar again?
I think it's a Schecter.
Schecter.
It was. Yeah.
It should be fine.
Yeah.
Where's he live? Take it to your tech. That's the thing to do.
Take it to someone who does it all day.
Yeah, and just say, what do you think? Here's my problems. They'll go, oh, let me see.
Yeah.
Oh, there, look, it's fixed.
Sometimes you got to call the plumber. There are the things we like to do. Like, I'm never changing my own oil again, ever.
Right. Me either.
Just done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. To someone who does it all
just
day.
Take it to someone who does it all day.
And someone's got a good ear and a good feel.
Yeah.
Then you just go, oh, you need this. Wow. How'd you do that? You're a magician. No, I turned a screw.
Well, Lewis says I'm the tech too. He's his own tech. He's been working on his own instrument. So,
cool.
So if I was going to say bass bridge upgrade, if it's Fender style bridge, that same spacing, it's a tough one.
It is a tough one because in a lot of ways.
Okay, I will say this: hardware wise, been very impressed with the stuff coming from. Oh, damn! The name just flew out of my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Wilkerson.
Yeah.
That's the name I'm looking for.
No,
that Dan Lecter has Wilkerson hardware on it.
Yes, it does.
Yep. They're just good, premium, but not too expensive hardware. That's usually an improvement over the thing that they're.
That's true.
You put their bridge on a Strat, it's a little better than the
It is.
Bridge.
I mean, then of course you got Hipshot and stuff like that. Which
Hipshot's been around for a long time.
Fantastic stuff. Really well made. Depends on the style of instrument that he has, really.
All right.
It's going to have an effect on the sound and what's the outcome he's looking for. So there's a lot. I want to see this thing.
Bring it over. So this might be out of both of our depths, but Alnico 3 magnets in Strat pickups.
Right.
Any thoughts on the pros or cons? Do you get into the magnets? Tone.
You see, here's the thing about all of this is that a guitar is a conglomeration of many parts that create the whole. You could have one, as we know, like Strats, the most copied guitar there is. Mm-hmm. They're all going to sound different. They could be out of the same machine and they just came out. They're going to sound different. So you want to hear the instrument and figure out what it needs. And is that pickup which going to have a little bit of a softer sound with the 3s? Is that what it's asking for? Mm-hmm. So you just do that. Really, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess it's simple, but
really on its face, it's simple.
Yeah, it really has to do with what the guitar already does,
exactly,
and then what you're looking to do. because there are guitars that come with crappy ceramic magnets that are just fine.
That sound good, surprisingly.
And there are, and those of you who watched this before, I harp on this, metals quality. Make sure if you're using more so than even the magnet materials are important.
Yeah.
The winding on the pickup.
Yeah.
And the quality of that winding.
Yeah. That's
figures
right.
way into
way
tone.
Into it. Yep.
And output and actual equalization can take a back seat to that sometimes. If you have cheap, bad, I mean, copper combined, you can put anything with copper. Copper just loves to make alloys, you know. So if you got copper winding, you can just like anything, like copper joins with anybody.
Right.
And so a lot of copper, the purity is not quite right, and that kind of changes the nature of the winding, and so facto ergo,
or what it's coated with.
Yeah,
that sort of
thing,
that really makes a difference.
Okay.
So did we answer that one properly?
The Elnico 3s?
Yeah, it's like maybe because it's like it doesn't have as much pull.
Yeah.
So therefore, its sound is not going to like overdrive in the same way. Of course, that has to do with how close you're going to put the pickups to the string, which has a lot to do with it. And with Strat pickups, you can only get them so close, or they'll start to pull it out of tune.
Yeah, they literally
because they're so focused. So there's it's one of those tough questions in a way. I'd like to go deeper in that somehow. But maybe another time.
Well, we got a few more things to Tele pickups, low output or versus overwound, staggered versus flat magnets. That's a lot. That's a lot.
A lot of opinions there.
Yeah, there's a lot of opinions to do with that. Yeah, we're talking about different kinds of good.
Exactly.
Because they're
exactly. Well, I like the flats for the rear.
Yeah.
I can say that.
I will say this, and this actually popped in my head just talking about pickups. I have a Gretsch that has the old, what they call the high-low tron.
Yeah.
The single coil that looks like the same thing as the double coil, but it's only one coil in it. Way low outputs. I have to use a booster with it.
Yeah.
Sounds so good. I love.
Yes, low output is great.
Overwound only if you need to make a metally sound.
Yeah.
If you need to make a mean, aggressive sound, then go for the overwound.
That's the thing to do.
If not, the thing to experiment with, if you're into experimenting, is some cool low output pickups.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. I could recommend one set that I just put in my latest Tele for my personal one that I liked a lot. And it's a guy named Eric Daw. And he's on the web. And I really dug his pickups. That's all I can say. It's worth checking out. Really sweet. What he does, the back pickup is just very slightly microphonic, just a little bit. I like them a lot. There is just another flavor of the billions of flavors.
Yeah. And there are a lot of good boutique pickup makers now.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah.
So many.
And they all have their own little angles. Of course, we have Stonewall pickups
That's
nearby.
right, Stonewall.
And he has a lot of innovations, including he makes super hot output pickups and super low pickup. He makes a 23K humbucker, and he makes a 3K humbucker.
There you go. Check them out.
Yeah. All right. And then James says, hi from Oz, just catching the end. Yes, you can go back and watch from the beginning. Wow, and if you do want to comment on anything, you can do that. And we have come up to the 7 o'clock hour, which means you've wasted another perfectly good hour listening to guitar talk. I like to, that's my...
that's a good one.
Yeah. So to wrap up with, thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe. Please go to Instagram and find us, and Facebook. This is Peter Meyer. He's been guesting. He does a lot of magic around here. So if you're in the area and you need some guitar work, let us know. We have a and thanks again for coming by.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Stand by for the end. The end is a little more complicated than it seems, because I have to hit the end button, and then there's another button, and see you later.
Okay.
And now we're